Welcome to lesson 9.5. Today we're going to talk multiplying probabilities. So in the first part of the chapter we learned probabilities of simple events, or events where we're only looking for one outcome to happen. Now we will start looking for probabilities of compound events, or events where we want more than one thing to happen. There are two ways to calculate probabilities of compound events depending on how they word the problem. In this lesson we'll take a look at when we should use multiplication to find that probability. So we're going to look at AND compound events. So when a compound event uses the word AND to combine the multiple events that we want to have happen, we need to use multiplication to find the answer. So for example, if the question was to find the probability of flipping heads and rolling a 3, we would take the two probabilities, the probability of flipping heads and the probability of rolling a 3, and multiply them together to get our answer for the probability of flipping heads and rolling a 3. So our first example, we're going to find the probability when flipping a coin and rolling a 6-sided die of flipping heads and rolling a 6. So the probability of heads and a 6, we take the probability of flipping heads, which is 1/2, and the probability of rolling a 6, which is 1/6, and we're going to multiply those two together. So 1/2 times 1/6. Now when we multiply fractions, remember we multiply straight across. 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 6 is 12. The probability of flipping heads and rolling a 6 is going to be 1/12. So for our next example, there are 8 blue, 7 green, and 5 red marbles in a bag. A marble is drawn from the bag and the color noted and then placed back in the bag. We're going to draw twice from that bag. So we're going to find the following probabilities. We're going to find the probability of drawing a blue and then a green one. Okay, so in order to do this, we need the probability of blue times the probability of green. Well, the probability of blue, if we add up the total, there are 20 total marbles. So the probability of blue is going to be 8/20. Okay, which we can simplify down if we take a 4 out of both of those to 2/5. The probability of green is 7/20. We can't simplify that down, so we need to leave it. Okay, so we multiply straight across. 2 times 7 is 14. 5 times 20 is 100. And then the last thing we need to do is we need to simplify this down. 14 and 100, I can take a 2 out of both of those, and I get 7/50. I can do the same thing for green and red. So I need to find the probability of green times the probability of red. So if I draw green, that probability is 7/20. The probability of red, there are 5 red out of a total of 20, but I can simplify that down. 5/20, I can take a 5 out of both, and that'll simplify it down to 1/4. So now I can multiply straight across. 7 times 1 is 7. 20 times 4 is 80. The probability that I draw a green and a red is 7/80. Probability of red and then blue. So I need to take the probability of drawing a red times the probability of drawing a blue. So what I can do, probability of red, I already found that, it's 1/4. Probability of blue, I already found that as well, it's 2/5. And I can multiply straight across. 1 times 2 is 2. 4 times 5 is 20. 2/20, I can take a 2 out of both of those, and my probability is 1/10. Okay, I can also try to get the same color both times. So if I want to do the probability of blue and then another blue, I can do that still by just taking the probability of blue times the probability of blue. So I know the probability of blue already. I found it. It's 2/5. So I can take 2/5 times 2/5, multiply straight across. 2 times 2 is 4. 5 times 5 is 25. My probability is 4/25. For our next example, there are 7 baseball cards, 6 football cards, and 9 basketball cards in a container. We're going to randomly draw 2 cards from the container, and we're going to put the cards back in after we draw it. So we're going to find the following probabilities. First thing we need to do is find our total. Okay, if I find the total number of cards, I take 7 plus 6 plus 5. I get that there are 22 total cards. So if I want the probability of drawing a football and a baseball card, I need to take the probability of football times the probability of baseball. Now for football, there are 6 out of the total of 22 cards, so I get 6 over 22. Now you should notice that you can take out a 2 from both of those, which means our fraction would really be 3 over 11. And I'm going to multiply that by the baseball. There are 7 baseball cards out of a total of 22. I can't simplify that down, so I have to leave it the way that it is. And now I can multiply straight across. 3 times 7 is 21. 11 times 22 is 242. And I can't simplify that down. 21 over 242 is my final answer. I do the same thing if I want a basketball and basketball. Okay, so again, I can do that. Probability of basketball times the probability of basketball. Okay, so for basketball, it's 9 over 22. I can't simplify that down, so I'm going to multiply it by itself. 9 over 22 times 9 over 22. Multiply straight across, I get 81 on the top. 22 times 22 gives me 484. So my fraction is 81 over 484. Probability of basketball and football. So I'm going to take the probability of basketball times the probability of football. Now I know both of these probabilities already. Probability of basketball is 9 over 22. And I'm going to multiply that by the probability of football, which is 3 over 11. Multiply straight across. 9 times 3 is 27. 22 times 11 gives me 242. My fraction is 27 over 242. For our last one, we're doing the probability of baseball and basketball. So the probability of baseball times the probability of basketball. I know both of these again. Baseball is 7 over 22. Basketball is 9 over 22. So I multiply straight across there. 7 times 9 is 63. 22 times 22 is 484. My probability is 63 over 484. So again, when you're given a probability and they use this word "and" here, okay, you'll notice they always have "and" in the middle. "And" tells you need to multiply the individual probabilities. So keep that in mind moving forward.